Good morning, delegates. It was very late night, and I would like to begin this morning with the adoption of the, sorry. Yes, we have a number of L documents that were posted to this final session of SBSTTA-25. As you can see, we have a number of documents. Let me remind you that we went through the draft recommendations paragraph by paragraphs and approved the CRP's documents. With the exception of one on climate change, when we went until very late. Therefore, I hope that today we can quickly adopt these L documents. So interventions should focus only on ensuring that L documents are faithful to our approval yesterday. Delegations should avoid reopening agreed texts or introduce new issues at this stage. I count with your support on this regard, unless you have some magical solutions to remove some of the brackets. If there's already agreed, we can do this quickly. Still many business, and also we should go back to the pending document CRP 8, where a small group was also working to look for some good solutions. So with that understanding, we will begin with document L2 on plant conservation. So I submit for adoption document L2 on plant conservation. I don't see any requests from the floor. So, document 2, Japan, you have the floor. Microphone to Japan, please. Technicians, please. Microphone to Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the annex to the L2 on item 3B, 3D, Japan understands that there was no in-depth discussion on the annex of the document as a part of the voluntary complementary actions for the target 13. A description related to digital sequence information has been included. Since the mechanism for benefit sharing from the use of DSI on genetic resources is currently under negotiation for COP16, Japan believes no language should be agreed on DSI to prejudge the outcome of the discussion. Therefore, Japan would like to express our interest to reserve the right to propose relevant changes in the future meetings according to the progress of the negotiation. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. So we note your comment about it and the right you have to further discuss this point when this is also going to the Conference of the Parties. That will be the place to do it. Thank you. I see no more requests from the floor. Austria.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair, I do apologize. I just came from a meeting where I had a Madam Chair, so apologies. Many thanks for giving me the floor. On this document, L document on the plant conservation. We were very happy with the document that has been prepared for this SAPSA by the Secretariat. That is why we, in the first session where we took up this document, had no interventions because we did support the document. When we came to the discussion of the CRP document, we were taken by surprise that the approval went so quickly, and also because we could see on the screen that some parties have asked for the floor on this CRP document on the plant conservation. We have a concern actually with the new complementary action on target 17, and therefore we would appreciate if that complementary action would be put in brackets to allow us more discussion on that, because we feel that we really need more discussion on that. I definitely do not want to stop our very successful deliberations here, but simply put that complementary action in brackets, the complementary action on target 17. Thank you very much.
Austria. So you got 2 points. One regarding the approval. At least at that moment in my screen didn't appear request from the floor when I approved it. I know there were some technical difficulties. In that sense, I apologize, but not because I didn't see that it was a request from the floor. I also comment that with some other delegations that it was clear. And but regarding your request for that specific target 17, I invite you to follow the same approach as Japan. So you reserve the right to go back when we discuss this at the COP, and not to open the document and to make any amendments at all if it's not to release any bracket. So so you have the right to do that, and you can do that when we discuss at the conference of the parties, and not to add any bracket so far. I hope I can, with your support, Austria.
Thank you very much, Chair. We will consider that, but before that I would also want to listen to other colleagues, to other parties in the room on that issue. Thank you.
I'll give the floor to Brazil, followed by Argentina and Sweden.
Thank you, Chair. And honestly, it is really disappointing to hear the statements made by Japan and Austria. We have been revising this document for quite a while now. I recall that we had extensive discussions in the previous SBSTA. We recall that when we presented the CRP yesterday, there was no opposition to the approval of the CRP as it stands. So it's a matter of concern that now we're trying to revisit the document and reopen it. We're not in a position to accept this. We do notice that there are many developing countries that have small delegations. Sometimes they only have one negotiator, and even so they struggle and manage to follow many discussions at the same time. So we honestly fail to understand why some countries now are trying to reopen the annex. We are not in a position to accept new brackets to the annex, and we feel that, first of all, the reference to DSI is fully consistent with Target 13, which we agreed upon in COP15, and we believe that also the proposal for Target 17 is consistent with the Target 17. So we will encourage not to reopen the annex. We will not be able to accept this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brazil. Yes, I joined your statement for not to open a document. These are voluntary complementary actions. I remind you that it went to a peer review process. It's a long way, and you still have the right at the COP to make modifications. So I kindly invite you to not to insert any new brackets at this stage. Argentina, followed by Sweden and Egypt.
Gracias, señor presidente. Queríamos unirnos a los comentarios recién hechos por usted y apoyar también la intervención hecha por Brasil. Entendemos que este documento ya tuvo suficiente revisión en esta reunión y no hubo observaciones presentadas y no quisiéramos en la discusión de este primer documento L en esta sesión empezar a sentar el precedente de que en esta plenaria vamos a abrir documentos L. Así que en función de este documento y los próximos Ls que tenemos, quisiéramos que se respetara lo acordado en la adopción del CRP. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Argentina. Los invito a que tengamos un espíritu positivo para cerrar el trabajo de muchos meses, incluso de años, que tenemos enfrente con las diferentes versiones de los documentos L. Quizá no son perfectos, es difícil lograr acuerdos entre tantos países con tantas visiones diferentes, pero creo que tenemos buenos elementos. Este documento en particular son acciones voluntarias para mejorar la implementación de la Estrategia Mundial de Conservación de Plantas, alineándose a nuestro nuevo marco global de biodiversidad. Son voluntarias dentro de las capacidades de cada parte. Entonces, los invito a que procedamos con la adopción del documento. Sigo teniendo solicitudes a la palabra. Los invito a que avancemos en los diferentes documentos. Tengo Suecia, seguida de Egipto, Indonesia y por último Japón. Cierro la lista para proceder a la adopción del documento con su apoyo. Suecia, seguido de Egipto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We really would like to start in a good spirit, and we appreciate this document, most parts of it, and we appreciate the hard work that was done on it. We realized that Action 17 was introduced really late, not during the review process. It appeared here in plenary. It wasn't there before. It wasn't in the working document. We were one of the countries who actually asked for the floor, but we were kind of voted down by acclamation. I realized that there were other parties that asked for the floor on that item. We don't want to destroy the good spirit here, but we have issues with the content. We were prepared to engage in a discussion of it. We didn't have the time for it. So I seek your advice how to proceed with those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Sweden. As I said before, you have the right to, as Japan proposed, to do this at the COP. So it's still an opportunity. This is a recommendation to the COP, so we can have an opportunity there. Meanwhile, I invite parties as soon as possible to start implementing these actions for the sake of plants in the planet. So let's be positive. Egypt followed by Indonesia and Japan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Egypt supports statement given by Brazil. I'm the only one from Egypt who has to deal with all of these issues, and it's very, very difficult. But certainly we agree with your concern, and maybe a compromise way is that in the report of the meeting, we can make a reference to this, whether it's Japan or Austria or whoever. And this will be another way, taken into consideration at COP. They can say whatever they like. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Egypt. I think this is a very good proposal. I invite Japan and Austria, Sweden, if they wish so, to provide language to be included in the report. So there's a record of this, and you can then reserve your right to do it at the COP. Indonesia followed by Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia would like to express the concerns and would like to echo our colleagues from Brazil that we are also concerned with the statement made by Japan, since we already had many discussions on this issue, and the DSI is already stated also on the target that we agree upon in COP15. Thank you, Chair.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
So I have here, a request from Brazil. Can we proceed to the adoption of the document? I think we are going in the line and the spirit to approve this document. We know there will be room to continue. We can record your concerns. So I would like to invite the plenary to adopt document L2. I see Brazil, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Of course, we will be glad to adopt the document, but we will not be in a position to accept comments expressing concerns with specific points in the report, because this would set a bad precedent for the future work of the Convention. I don't think it has been the usual practice to include specific comments from contracting parties saying that they would like to somehow dissociate from specific elements of the document, as if the document has not undergone through an inclusive discussion, because this was proposed in written comments, this was discussed in the plenary. If countries had any concern whatsoever, they should have raised in the plenary. So we honestly do not feel comfortable with including comments within the report, because this would simply suggest that the work we've done here was not inclusive and was not consistent with the rules of procedure. So we would, of course, we are eager to adopt this document, but we would not like to accept specific comments expressing concerns or caution in the report, because this would set a bad precedent for the future work of the Convention. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Japan followed by Austria.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And let me clarify our intention first. So it is not our intention to reopen or to change, modify, and block this great document. It is only to share our interest to reserve our rights to make any changes according to the ongoing discussion on DSI. And I really appreciate the proposal from Egypt, but also we understand the concern raised by Brazil. So I'd like to mention that if it is noted as our interest to make any proposal at COP, we don't need any addition to change the document. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Japan. And I invite parties to follow same approach as Japan, to reserve your right to continue deliberation on this at the COP. Please, Austria.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We regret that we had no opportunity to discuss the annex as included in the CRP document. It was approved without any discussion, and actually the complementary action to Target 17 has been put forward during this subster, so it has not been part of the review process of this document. So it's something very new where we had no opportunity to discuss in this meeting. Therefore, and it's practice in these meetings that if there is a party that has a problem with a certain proposal where we can't find a compromise, that it's bracketed. That's common practice in this process. And it's also common practice that when a party has an objection and asks to put that objection to the report, that it's the right of the party to do that. We still have a problem with this part, but in the spirit of a compromise, we would like to ask to put our concern to the report of the meeting on this Target 17. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Austria. Now I'll give the floor to Argentina and Brazil.
Gracias, señor presidente. Y si bien, como señalamos anteriormente, lamentamos que lo que aprobamos en la plenaria, en el CRP, ahora está siendo cuestionado, entendemos también que es práctica estándar que las delegaciones tienen derecho a registrar con el nombre de su delegación su preocupación, y eso puede permanecer en el report. Muchas gracias.
Es correcto, Argentina. Así es. Bueno, los invito a que avancemos, que aprobemos el documento. Quienes desean hacerlo tienen el derecho de indicarlo. Y que procedamos. ¿Secretaría quiere tomar la palabra? No, it says CBD Secretariat 298. I appreciate then your support, and I would like to submit document L2 for adoption. I see no request, no objection. document L2 on plan conservation is adopted. Now let's proceed in numerical order. This is with document L3, review of findings from the methodological assessment report on the diverse values and valuation of nature of IPBES and their implications for the work undertaken under the convention. Dear colleagues, I propose that we proceed to L3, which concerns the review. This document was discussed during the afternoon session on Tuesday, the 17th, and we made significant progress. The main outstanding issue relates to the brackets around paragraph 3 on whether to use welcomes or endorses in reference to key messages contained in the summary for policymakers of the values assessment. Additionally, I would like to clarify that in paragraph 7, subparagraph D should be present as an alternative to subparagraph 7C rather than a new subparagraph. This is something editorial. So with this clarification, I would like to submit document L3 for adoption. I see two requests, one from Spain, followed by Brazil.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. En el párrafo 1 vemos que todavía permanecen corchetes. Nos gustaría tomar el texto limpio de referencia que tenemos en el documento L para el tema 5 de especies exóticas invasoras. Y nuestra propuesta sería en línea con el L de invasoras, que está limpio en ese mismo párrafo en referencia a la evaluación de IPBES, eliminar la referencia a with appreciation, that is in brackets now, eliminar the issuance of, por lo que la primera frase sería directamente welcomes the methodological assessment. Damos la bienvenida a la evaluación, no a que se publique. Y en línea también con el texto limpio que tenemos para la evaluación de IPBES de invasoras, eliminar los corchetes en la tercera línea referidos a its key messages. Con lo cual, tomando de referencia ese texto limpio para la evaluación de IPBES de invasoras, tendríamos aquí también el párrafo 1 sin corchetes. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, España. Como dije, si hay intentos para eliminar corchetes, podemos considerarlos. Lo que usted está proponiendo es la opción de welcomes, the methodological assessment report and its key messages. Eliminar with appreciation the issuance of y dejar el texto de los key messages. Esa es la propuesta concreta. Tengo solicitudes de Brasil, Argentina y Chile, pero me gustaría saber, ¿hay alguien que se opone a la propuesta que hace España? Se opone Argentina. I'm sorry. Brasil, doy la palabra.
Thank you, Chair. We'll just flag that, as you mentioned, from our recollection of the discussions, 7D was actually a 7C alt, and I understand that both then 7C and 7C alt would remain brackets for further consideration, given the fact that during the discussions we expressed concern with regards to the original paragraph 7C, which starts with reform policies and institutions, and we had suggested an alternate phrasing which now referred to as 7D, but it should be rephrased as 7C alt, and we understand that both of them should remain in brackets. Regarding the proposal from Spain, building on the discussions we had, the issue is how we would then deal with paragraph 3, which refers to the key messages as endorses or welcomes. From our perspective, if we are to accept the proposal from Spain in paragraph 1, then we would delete paragraph 3, because then we would be already addressing the key messages in paragraph 1. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we need to go part by part. Let's first resolve. Yeah, we initially mentioned the editorial change as advised by the Secretariat, indicating that 7D is 7 alt C, but the precision from Brazil that both should be in brackets because we're not agreed, right? That is reflecting what we have in our deliberations. Now, let's go back to paragraph 1 with the suggestions from Spain to have a clean text, welcoming the assessment report and its key messages. And that if we accept these amendments, Brazil indicates there is no need for paragraph 3 because we are including the key messages. However, is the issue between welcomes and endorses. That's where we are. So, and when I ask if the amendments on paragraph 1 are acceptable, I saw Argentina raising their hand and now asking for the floor. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. En primer lugar, agradezco a España la propuesta de compromiso. Me parece una forma constructiva y que refleja las deliberaciones del día de ayer. Sin embargo, esta propuesta resultaría aceptable para Argentina siempre y en cuanto se acepte como un paquete con la eliminación del párrafo 3 en su totalidad. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Argentina. Está la propuesta entonces en la mesa de aceptar las enmiendas para el párrafo 1 y la eliminación del párrafo 3. ¿Hay alguien que se opone a proceder con este arreglo? Bélgica se opone. Gracias. Doy la palabra a Chile, seguida de Egipto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like just a clarification. If we keep with the Spain proposal, that would delete the with appreciation, right? That's one thing. And the other, we will keep with the next brackets and its key messages. That was the proposal for Spain?
Mantener el texto, eliminar los brackets y dejar el texto de que también damos la bienvenida a sus mensajes clave.
Okay. So if we keep the first paragraph as it is, as the proposal that was made by Spain, we could agree deleting the paragraph 3. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Muchas gracias. Chile, Egypt, followed by Belgium.
We also agree to delete the brackets.
And what about paragraph 3? Egypt.
I think when we come to it, we can, as you said, let us go paragraph by paragraph, and then when we come to 6, that will be a different story. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Egypt, but the proposal is a package between paragraphs 1 and 3. Egypt.
I am in favor of keeping paragraph 3, actually, and remove the brackets as well. You don't need to say endorse. Welcome straight away. Thank you.
Thank you. Belgium, followed by Russian Federation and Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our recollection of this discussion is indeed that this was a quite tedious discussion where we spent quite a bit of time. And we, at this time, are not ready to lift the brackets in paragraph 1 and lift the brackets in paragraph 3. We prefer still to have a statement endorsing the key messages in the summary for policymakers of the assessment. The only suggestion with which we can agree is, from Spain, is the deletion of the words "the issuance of," which we feel is unnecessary and is even confusing. But we understand that this issue of the way this assessment is accepted is rather a political decision rather than a technical scientific, and we prefer to keep that for COP. Thank you.
Thank you, Belgium. I hope there is no opposition to just delete the words "the issuance of," because there is no reason to have it. Anybody opposing to eliminate those words? I don't see any opposition. And honestly, I see that the proposal is a package. If we don't go any further, we should retain brackets in paragraph 1 and paragraph 3. I do thank you for the intent, but I give the floor to a few of you. Please do not, if we don't go any further, we can save our time. Russian Federation, followed by Mexico.
Thank you, Chair. We like to have a clean one. We agree with the suggestion also to delete the issuance, but we like clean one, and in this case we support those parties who think we don't need paragraph 3 and delete paragraph 3. Thank you.
Since there are parties who want to keep paragraph 3, we should keep them in brackets and also the brackets in paragraph 1. Sudan, followed by Sweden.
شكرا السيد الرئيس. السودان أيضا يرحب بكلمة يرحب ب ونؤيد حذف الفقرة الثالثة منعا للتكرار. شكرا.
Sweden, last word, we need to move on.
Thank you. We echo Belgium because the paragraph 3, as we have it here, is language they have used for other EPAs.
Thank you, Sudan. Thank you, Sweden. So we will not solve these paragraphs. So let's keep the brackets on paragraph 1, just deleting the issuance of, and let's keep paragraph 3 with brackets. We need to move on because we have many documents. Please help me. And I'm wondering if there are more comments on different parts of the document or if we can approve document L3. South Africa, you have the floor. I hope it's not to go back to 1 or 3 paragraphs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just a question for clarity purposes. As I've followed discussion on other assessment, the formulation for para 1 still reflect approved by plenary of the intergovernmental, which is the text that was agreed that it will be removed in all the assessment when it comes to the recommendations. Thank you.
Still the text as it is. It's just welcomes and brackets on with appreciation, and we are deleting the issuance of the issuance of and continue with methodological assessment and still brackets around key messages and keep the text approved by the plenary of IPBES in 9th session. So remain like that. And so I see no more requests from the floor. Okay, so it remains, the only deletion we agreed is just the 3 words of the issuance of. That's the only deletion. And with this, I would like to submit the adoption of document L3 as amended. I see no objections, so document L3 is adopted. Now let's move to consider document L4 on alien invasive species. Before I open the floor, I would like to mention that this document has brackets on paragraphs 1, 6, 7, 10C, 10G, 11A, so paragraph 6, and 11B, little Roman 2. Also, as mentioned yesterday during our consideration of the CRP, the contact group considered the term global change and the different ways its meaning is understood after it was raised by some delegations. After some discussion, the contact group agreed on revised language that replaced the concept of global change with drivers of biodiversity loss in Annex 3. As a result, it was agreed that changes will be made to all references to global change in the annex. Therefore, document L4 now reflects this change and includes the concept of drivers of biodiversity loss. This has been reflected in paragraph 8 of document L4. With this, I submit for adoption document L4. Can we adopt this recommendation? I see, veo España, que tiene la palabra, seguido de Chile. España.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Respecto al párrafo 9, epígrafe C, que había unos corchetes que quedaron ayer en la revisión del CRP. Hemos trabajado con Brasil, al que agradecemos su colaboración en un texto de consenso y se lo hemos hecho llegar a la Secretaría antes del inicio del Pleno. Por lo tanto, si lo pueden leer con el texto que hemos hecho llegar a la Secretaría por parte de ambas delegaciones, se podrían eliminar los corchetes que ahora mismo hay en el 9C. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a España y a Brasil por trabajar en buscar cómo eliminar corchetes. Como dije, lo único que permitimos para abrir documentos L es para eliminar corchetes, no para meter más. Entonces pido a la Secretaría que lea la nueva formulación del párrafo 8C. ¿Es correcto? 9C.
Sí, el párrafo 9, paragraph 9C with the amendments will read, to develop and strengthen existing national regulatory instruments to reduce the movement and introduction of invasive alien species, which may be complemented, when appropriate, through the use of relevant voluntary guidance, and the paragraph continues.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. I would like to see if we can agree with this change in order to eliminate brackets in this paragraph. Is there any opposition? Please raise your hand. I don't see any hand. Thank you very much. So this paragraph is amended. Now I give the floor to Chile, followed by Belgium and Argentina.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to see if we can solve the paragraph 6 related with the Global Biodiversity Information Facility that was pending yesterday along with the other one that I don't remember really well, but there were two related with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Do you have any concrete proposal, Chile, for this paragraph, or can I ask Argentina, because you were consulting Capital about this paragraph, so I'll give the floor to Argentina.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Luego de las deliberaciones del día de ayer y a partir de consultas posteriores, se desprende que al momento la membresía del grupo de tareas referida en el párrafo 6 aún no ha sido establecida. En este sentido, proponemos un texto alternativo como un posible compromiso para retener lo que entendemos es el espíritu del párrafo. El texto propuesto es el siguiente. Takes note with appreciation the efforts of the Global Biodiversity Information Facility to improve access to data and information on invasive alien species. Argentina espera que esta solución resulte aceptable para los honorables delegados presentes. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Argentina, por esta propuesta para mantener la referencia a GBIF y el trabajo que desarrolla en especies invasoras. ¿Existe alguna delegación que se oponga a la enmienda propuesta por Argentina? Por favor, levante la mano. I don't see any hands. Then this paragraph is amended. Thank you very much for your cooperation, Argentina. Now I'll give the floor to Belgium, followed by UK, and then Argentina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, on my recollections of our discussions on this document, I seem to remember that a new paragraph was introduced by, if I'm not mistaken, Japan, and supported by Belgium, to have the same sort of wording as we just discussed in the values L document on endorsing the key messages. Now, I remember that, again, we had the same type of discussion as with the previous L document, but I do not recollect that we agreed to delete the suggested new paragraph by Japan, supported by Belgium, asking for the endorsement of the key messages. And I see that this paragraph is not here, so I would love to see it reinstated. Thank you.
Let me ask the Secretary. I will give the floor to the Secretariat for you to know the recollection about this paragraph.
Thank you, Chair. The way this L document was prepared was to reflect the entire discussion. We certainly remember the proposal by Japan, but our recollection is that it was not agreed, but then it was at the end finalized in the way that is reflected in the L document. That was the recollection of the Secretariat. Thank you.
Belgium. So that's why we don't see that paragraph. Belgium. So I hope. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Secretariat. I must confess that my recollection is that we did not decide to delete the paragraph. It was put between brackets, and there was indeed a long discussion, especially on the first paragraph, along the same lines as we discussed on the CRP on the values assessment. So these two discussions went in very parallel, but I do not remember that we actually decided to delete this new paragraph by Japan. Thank you. But I'm of course ready to listen to other countries, because at my age, my recollection may not be perfect.
Yeah, if that was a mistake on the recollection of what happened during discussions, I really don't remember exactly also. There were too many paragraphs. I sleep with paragraphs. And if it was not an agreement to delete it, so you have the right to put back that paragraph with brackets. So I will ask Secretary to do that in this understanding. Now I'll give the floor to Argentina, followed by Japan and Chile. Let's move on, colleagues.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente, por darme nuevamente la palabra. En relación al párrafo 10, subpárrafo 5, en línea con nuestra previa intervención y el consenso alcanzado sobre el párrafo 6, vamos a sugerir eliminar la referencia explícita al grupo de trabajo, conservando el resto del párrafo para leer: strengthening collaboration with the relevant sectors such as tourism and trade and the Global Biodiversity Information Facility to improve access to data and information on invasive alien species. Argentina espera que esta solución resulte favorable para el resto de las partes. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Argentina. Con esto estaríamos eliminando otro corchete, sin hacer referencia a la fuerza de tarea, pero sí reconociendo el trabajo de GBIF. Espero que esta propuesta sea aceptable. Si hay alguien que se opone a eliminar los corchetes con esta enmienda, veo Chile y Francia. ¿Se oponen? ¿O quizá quieren volver a escuchar lo que está diciendo? ¿O se oponen a las enmiendas? O sea, sí se reconoce el trabajo de GBIF, pero no se menciona la Task Force como tal. Ok, doy la palabra a Japón, seguido de Chile y Francia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Yes, we have the same reflection with Belgian delegation, and for the purpose of maintaining consistency with our discussion, the previous agenda on value assessment, again, Japan would like to have the third paragraph, which we proposed yesterday, that is about the endorsement of key messages. Thank you.
Yeah, that was the reference made by Belgium. We said that we will put back with brackets. That's just to confirm that. Now I'll give the floor to Chile, followed by France. I think this is regarding paragraph 10, Roman 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I was mistaken. I would like to, if I'm correct, Chile agrees with just deleting the task force of the global biodiversity information of the paragraph 10.5. So if that's the option, we agree. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chile. That was a proposal from Argentina. France.
Thank you, Chair. France does not agree with deleting the mention to the task force. In our opinion, GBIF is already providing data on biodiversity and on invasive alien species. The aim of this task force is to link and to foster interoperability with the different databases. So the interest here is rather the task force than the GBIF in itself. So we are sorry for that, but...
France, I'm sorry for interrupt you, but this is a way forward to have a clean text. Otherwise, we will have this in brackets. I mean, this is to strengthen collaboration with the relevant sectors, such as tourism and trade, and the GBIF, to improve access to data. I mean, if you insist to have the mention of the task force, which is a difficulty for some party, then we will not have that paragraph. So I ask you for flexibility in order to have a clean text and also to recognize the contribution of GBIF. Can you go along with this proposal as amended by Argentina?
Okay, sorry.
I see you still in consultation. Meanwhile, I give the floor to Uruguay and Switzerland.
Okay,
We still have many documents. France.
Chair? Yes, we accept that for the moment.
Thank you for... It's not for the moment, it's for the adoption of the document. Thank you, France. Merci beaucoup. Now, Uruguay and Switzerland, and I hope we can proceed with the adoption of the document. Uruguay?
Gracias, señor presidente. Yo simplemente quería apoyar la propuesta que había hecho Argentina, sobre todo porque entiendo que para fortalecer la colaboración en lo que tiene que ver con poder mejorar el acceso
Muchas gracias,
y movilización
Uruguay.
de datos, no solo es necesario el trabajo del equipo de tareas de especies exóticas invasoras, sino de también otros equipos de tareas de GBIF. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Uruguay. So with these amendments, if there are no more comments for the paragraphs, I would like to submit the adoption of document L4 on invasive alien species. I see no objections, then document L4 is adopted. Now let's proceed with document L5 on approaches to identifying scientific and technical needs to support the implementation of the framework, including its implication on the programs of work of the Convention. This is a short document. Before I open the floor, I would like to remind you that we agreed to leave document L5 with brackets to be solved by the COP in paragraphs 3, C, and 5. Therefore, document L5 reflects this agreement, so I submit for adoption document L5. Brazil followed by Canada.
Thank you, Chair. And regarding document L5, we will draw attention to paragraph 2D, which starts with on the basis, on the analysis. We do understand that we had some discussions about this paragraph yesterday, building on the proposals that were presented by Canada and Brazil. We think that the phrasing that has been presented does not capture accurately the discussions we had. So the first two lines from our perspective will need to be rephrased as follows. On the basis of the analysis carried out in subparagraphs A, B, and C above, comma, prepare technical advice, comma, including, comma, if appropriate, comma, recommendations, comma, and then moving to the last line, which starts with such guidance, we would suggest replacing it with such advice may include the need for new guidance and tools to address gaps or updates as needed. So we understand that this would be more accurate and more faithful to the discussions we had yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. Canada?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And indeed, we noted there was a couple of editorial things that perhaps weren't captured exactly as we presented them. So I think we can help the distinguished colleague from Brazil by reflecting exactly what we proposed. I have it here in the screen in front of me. I presented it yesterday, and it doesn't concur exactly with his recollection, but it's pretty similar. So what we noted is in the third line, when it says undertaken under the convention, comma, including, it should say including, but not limited to the multi-year program of work. So the but not limited to, we specifically stated that, and we didn't hear any disagreement in the room. Then on the 6th line, where it says, in the end of the 5th line, where it says for consideration by the Substa at its 26th meeting, here in this text it says or the subsidiary body. Our proposal was and that's because it could go to both depending on the situation. So we did not propose to say or, we proposed to say and. So factually that was what was proposed and we didn't hear any opposition. And then lastly, in that second last line, it was not our proposal to say, as Brazil suggested, the advice. This language, the only change that we have was just a grammatical one. We had suggested such guidance may include new guidance and tools. We didn't say the new guidance and tools. So those were the changes that we noted that differed from what we presented. Thank you.
So far, getting all both proposed amendments, perhaps I could say, on the basis of the analysis carried out in some paragraphs to see above, prepare technical advice, including if appropriate. This is Brazil recommendations, comma, for the adjustment of work undertaken in the convention, including but not limited to the MIPO, programs of work of the convention, and it continues until Substa and SBI. And then there's a difference of opinions between guidance or advice may include the need for new guidance. So it seems to me that all suggestions can fit to make sense, and the only the difference is on the initial part of the last line between advice or guidance. I need your guidance. So I give the floor. I have RDC, DRC and then Brazil.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, et merci beaucoup pour ce document. Cependant, il y a quelque chose que nous avons soulevé, mais qui n'avait pas été peut-être prise en compte ici. C'est au paragraphe 2, sous point B, à la deuxième...
Please help me to solve this paragraph D, and then if you are referring to a different one, we can go later. Brazil, on this.
Thank you, Chair. And well, we had suggested to replace guidance with advice because I understand that now the first two lines of paragraph D would read as prepare technical advice. So the information on the potential inclusion of the need for new guidance and tools would be included in this technical advice that the Secretariat would prepare. So that is why we had suggested to replace, because when we had such guidance, we don't see a previous guidance that this would refer to. So just maintain the coherence within the paragraph. Thank you.
Thank you for the rationale, Brazil. So Canada, can we go along with this? Because immediately it says may include need for new guidance. Thank you. I see you noting. So with these amendments, I guess there's an agreement to amend in this way paragraph 2D. Now we go back to DRC on another part of paragraph 2.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, merci. Je voudrais juste revenir sur le paragraphe 2, sous point B. À la deuxième ligne, nous avions demandé d'ajouter les femmes et les jeunes. Et la même chose pour le paragraphe 4, à la première ligne, après les peuples autochtones et communautés locales, nous avons demandé la même chose. On n'a pas vu ça repris ici. Nous sollicitons que cela soit figuré. Merci.
Thank you. that will be included. So with this, I would like to submit paragraph L5 as amended, but I see Canada. No. So can we adopt paragraph L5 as amended? Canada again?
Apologies, Mr. Chair. I was just a little bit confused your explanation at the beginning about the text that is in brackets. So we have text in brackets still in the LDoc in 2C and in 4. And so the question is, this is a recommendation for SBSTA. It's not a COP. So what are we doing with the text that is in brackets? We can't adopt it with brackets. Thank you.
You're totally right. I'm sorry. I feel the pressure of the many documents on agenda items that's still pending. But certainly we cannot approve nothing in brackets because this is not a draft recommendation to the COP. This is SBSTA. And if there is no agreement on this text, then it has to be removed because there is no agreement. You see, there is no chance for somebody else or another body to work on it. So we have two paragraphs with brackets. As in 3C, what we have in brackets is expression is with a view to addressing those gaps and potential needs for updates. So the whole phrase says, identify gaps and redundancies to support the implementation of the goals or targets of the framework in line with the demands of the Convention for consideration of SBI. No, for SBSTA, at this next meeting, which really is overwhelmed, with a view to addressing those gaps and potential needs for updates. So I will try once. Can we remove the brackets and maintain the language? Is any opposition to delete the brackets and to keep all text clean? If there's any opposition, please raise your hands. I see no hands. Thank you very much. So we leave the brackets and keep the text. So we have this paragraph clean. Thank you so much. And the remaining bracket is on 4, where it says invites parties, other governments, indigenous peoples, and local communities, women and youth, and then biodiversity-related conventions, the other Rio conventions, and other relevant multilateral agreements. This is a part. This is one part, and relevant intergovernmental organizations and stakeholders to submit views on requests, inputs, and suggestions. So I need your help to lift the brackets, or to have language, or to delete if there's no agreement. I see for your guidance. I see DRC followed by Argentina.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La question qui était posée ici était celle de savoir si le SBSTA a bel et bien le mandat d'inviter les autres conventions des Rio et autres accords multilatéraux sur l'environnement. Nous pensons que ça, c'est vraiment au-delà du mandat des SBSTA et nous avons suggéré que cette partie soit effacée. Merci.
Thank you very much. Part of the explanation I received from the Secretary is we're not mandating, it's just an invitation. You have the right to say yes or not. So it's quite soft language, it's a positive language to work with other bodies. Argentina, followed by Brazil.
Gracias, señor presidente. Y dado que en el párrafo ya está sin corchetes la referencia a relevant intergovernmental organizations, nos parece que podemos también levantar los corchetes en relación a biodiversity-related conventions and other Rio conventions, etc., porque igualmente están ahí incluidas, es simplemente señalarlos más específicamente. En relación a on requests, inputs and suggestions, nuestra sugerencia era eliminar el texto. Nos parece que limita el llamado y si lo sacamos queda más amplio y adecuado. Así que para resumir, sugerimos mantener el texto del primer corchete y eliminar el del segundo.
Muchas gracias, Argentina. Creo que es una excelente propuesta. Es una invitación para colaborar y quizá eliminando el texto que limita a que refieran observaciones sobre solicitudes, insumos y sugerencias y dejar que sometan puntos de vista sobre los programas de trabajo, en este caso de la IPES y su contribución potencial para con CBD. Creo que es una buena manera de invitar esta colaboración. Podemos aceptar la propuesta de Argentina de eliminar los corchetes de la primera parte y eliminar el texto de la segundo corchete, que es más limitante. Si alguien se opone, que levante la mano, por favor. I see no hands. Then is agreed to amend. So we have now clean text in all paragraphs of document L5. I see Japan requesting for the floor. I hope we can adopt, but you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a very minor point. In paragraph 3, in line 3, I can see paragraph 3 within paragraph 3. So I'm afraid this is a typo, or maybe this should refer to paragraph 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Japan. Arigato. So we have a clean text, and I submit document L5 amended for adoption, as amended for adoption. I see no requests, no objections. Then document L5 is adopted.
I want the floor. I want the floor.
I'll give the floor to the Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I didn't want to interfere in the adoption of this document. I note that in the CRP yesterday there was a request there was a reference to this being subject to the availability of resources, which was deleted. I just want to note that, of course, the Secretariat will do its utmost to implement this request. I will just note that it, of course, involves a lot of work, which is within the spirit of paragraph 8 of decision 15.4, but goes beyond the specific request from the Conference of the Parties in paragraph 9 of 15.4. We note there's the need to do a lot of work in a short period of time. Of course, we will do our best to fulfill this request, and we will also assess the resources required, and we may be seeking additional resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. It's really a big task what we're asking to the Secretariat to do, to make a revision of all these programs of work, and not only the thematic ones. We discussed this also during the Bureau meeting. I mean, and with the addition of all cross-cutting issues, it's like 20 programs more. And for many of them, there is no even a professional dealing with those, because there are some other priorities. When we focused the whole convention in 2010 to work on Aichi targets, it was a different approach. And now to go back and it's like to reinvent the whole convention. And we need to save time and to focus our activities at home to fulfill the new goals and targets. We have 23 clear targets where we should focus our efforts. And Secretariat has to support us for this, for all the meetings, And now to analyze all these programs is not an easy task and will require additional resources. Let's be conscious about what are we asking in order to be realistic. What we can ask for many things. Everybody wants to go to the booth, but it's not possible. And I know Secretary is doing the best and also looking for resources to do it. Thank you so much. Now let's move to next document, which is document L6 on sustainable wildlife management. Therefore, I open the floor. Before I open the floor, I would like to remind you that we agreed to leave this document with brackets to be solved by the Conference of the Parties in paragraphs 4H, 4M, 5, 7, and 8. We also agreed to add women and in every mention of indigenous people and local communities. Therefore, document L6 is reflecting these changes, so I submit for adoption document L6. DRC, have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Merci pour la parole. Nous avons conscience qu'il faut beaucoup de ressources pour faire ce travail. Et en donnant ce travail au secrétariat, nous avons conscience que cela nécessite beaucoup de moyens. Mais qui veut les omelettes casse les œufs. Monsieur le Président, nous revenons sur le fait de supprimer les rappels que cela est subordonné à la disponibilité des ressources. C'est à nous de chercher les ressources pour le secrétariat. À Montréal, nous avions dit qu'on devrait avoir un fonds spécial dédié à la biodiversité sous l'autorité du secrétariat. Les gens ne voulaient pas. Et donc maintenant, là, le secrétariat nous montre qu'il y a besoin de ces ressources. Donc nous devons lui aider à trouver ces ressources et nous demandons que cela soit supprimé ici et que tout le monde se débrouille pour trouver au secrétariat les ressources nécessaires pour faire ce travail. Il s'agit ici de plusieurs objectifs du cadre mondial de la biodiversité Kunming-Montréal. Merci.
Thank you, DRC. We should make our best efforts to support our secretariat to keep serving us in the best way, certainly. Going back to document, so I would like to submit for adoption document L6 on sustainable wildlife management. I don't see any objection, then document L6 is adopted. DRC, asking again for the floor, is a mistake.
Oui, quand vous avez voulu adopter, je voulais comprendre si il était question de supprimer ces références au paragraphe 5, 7 et 8 de ce document qui font référence aux ressources financières. Surtout le paragraphe 5. Subject to the availability of resources. Donc, je voudrais que cela soit supprimé. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The document is adopted with all these brackets, and this should be solved by the COP. So that's what we adopt, as it is, with all the brackets. Thank you. Now let's move to document 7 on scientific, technical, and technological inputs that should inform the global review of collective progress and implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. I would like to mention that this document has brackets on a number of paragraphs. There is one bracket in the chapeau brackets in one of the preambular paragraph, and in paragraph 1, 3, 6, and 13, there were a number of brackets on paragraph 6, and there is also 2 paragraphs with brackets. So I would like to submit this document for adoption. I see no request from the floor, so document L7 is adopted. Now let's consider document L8 on monitoring framework for the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So I submit for adoption document L8. Finland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are very happy with this document. Just one issue which we would like to note, that on paragraph 6, which was in the note before, that Finland thanks, of course, the co-chairs and the secretariat and the contact group of the progress made. And with regard to para 6, we note that the following targets, it's targets 1, 6, 12, and 15, due to time constraints, were not discussed. We should like to note or recall this in the report, so we have a clear understanding that these 4 targets were not discussed. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. We note this particular precision. Norway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a minor comment. Referring to the annex in paragraph 2, the reference should be to Annex 2 of Decision 15/5, as that is the one containing the terms of reference for the ATEC. Thank you.
Please, can you repeat the precision, because I didn't get it properly.
Thank you. So in paragraph 2, we are referring to subparagraphs 1A, minor 1, 2, 3 of the annex to Decision 15/5. And to be precise, we believe that it should be Annex 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it should be Annex 2 to the Decision 15/5. Number 2, before the word 2. Okay. So with this, I would like to submit document L8 for adoption. I see no request from the floor. Then document L8 is adopted with this minimal amendment. With this, we finish with documents L, and now I propose to address document CRP8 on biodiversity and climate change. Then, when we reach the paragraphs in question, last night I established a small group comprising Canada, Portugal, Colombia, Germany, Brazil, Malawi, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo to work on paragraphs 6 and 7, which are the parts referring to Substam. And I would like to ask a representative of this group to give us an update of the outcomes of this group. So I give the floor to Malawi.
Thank you, Chair. Indeed, as you had established a small group yesterday, we met this morning from 8:30, and we had participation of Brazil, Canada, Colombia. Eswatini stood in for DRC, and Spain stood in for Portugal. We also had Germany and Malawi. The group worked on the brackets in paragraph 6 and paragraph 7, and also considered the various alternative texts that were in the CRP document with regards to those paragraphs. And we managed to develop compromise text for both paragraphs, and we hope that it will be adequate to move us forward. So I'll just read the text that we agreed to present this morning, starting with paragraph 6. So paragraph 6, the agreed paragraph stresses the importance of CBD national focal points, engaging with their UNFCCC counterparts, and of enhancing collaboration among CBD and UNFCCC parties to raise awareness on relevant interlinkages between biodiversity and climate change, to support relevant national planning processes in line with national commitments, circumstances, and priorities as appropriate. So that is the language for paragraph 6. With regards to paragraph 7, the agreed paragraph by the group is requests the Executive Secretary, when undertaking the comprehensive review and analysis of existing tools and guidance that can support elements of Target 8 and 11, and other aspects of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, in line with SBSTTA recommendation 25, So we are hoping that the Secretariat will be able to include the right reference, specifically the one dealing with the guidance for the program of work there, to include those developed under the CBD and assessment reports of IPBES and IPCC, taking note of the Resolution 5/5 of the United Nations Environment Assembly on Nature-Based Solution for Sustainable Development. So this, Chair, is what we worked on, and we hope it's adequate to move us forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malawi, and to the group. To make a proposal, I understand, is clean. It's a compromise to solve what we have on paragraphs 6 and 7. I hope this is acceptable. I give the floor to Secretariat, right? Yes, So he captured very well. Can we go along to adopt this new formulation? If there's any objection, please raise your hand. I don't see objections to this compromise. Guinea Ecuatorial.
Sí, muchas gracias, señor presidente. No es una objeción al respecto, simplemente una pequeña preocupación. Por ejemplo, algunos de los documentos que ya hemos validado, en concreto el 7 y el que estamos analizando ahora, solo tenemos la versión inglesa. Entonces, en materia logística, para mejorar el entendimiento del resto de países, sugiero que nos lo puedan facilitar en los demás idiomas. Por favor.
Gracias, Guinea. Entiendo que la Secretaría está trabajando en tenerlos lo antes posible. La única limitante es que tenemos que terminar en poquito más de una hora todos los trabajos de SBSTTA porque la COP continúa. Espero que haya comprensión en las limitaciones de la Secretaría y los traductores para poder tener esto. Estuvimos hasta la medianoche con este documento de cambio climático y pues logísticamente es muy complicado tenerlo en todos los idiomas, pero sé que se está trabajando para que estén listos y agradezco su flexibilidad y su cooperación porque tenemos que terminar nuestros trabajos ya. Argentina, tiene la palabra.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Simplemente quisiera llamar la atención a un posible error editorial en el documento CRP 8. En el segundo párrafo introductorio pareciera estar duplicada una referencia y un pie de página. Entiendo que de acuerdo a lo discutido, la oración debería terminar luego de la primera referencia a pie de página, es decir, luego de climate change, y luego la oración como continúa, the outcomes of the intergovernmental policy en adelante, es repetitivo y debería borrarse. Agradeceré que pueda confirmar si esto será incluido de esta manera. Muchas gracias.
Ya la secretaria confirma que es un error editorial y será corregido cuando se apruebe este documento. So, with these amendments and thanking the group that successfully reached a consensus on these two paragraphs, I was to submit for adoption, but I see UK.
Thank you, Chair, and we'd like to thank this small group for their collaborative work. We're very happy with this compromise. We just have a small editorial change in para 3 ahead of the assessment on spatial planning and connectivity. This should actually be methodological, not thematic, as that was what was agreed at IPBES 10. Thank you.
Thank you for the precision. So we should replace thematic, well, methodological by thematic assessment, right? The other way around. Oh, no, it says in the third line, it says a methodological assessment. Yes, a thematic by methodological. So can you repeat, because we have the expression of, on the third line?
We'll correct that title.
Okay, at the beginning of the third line, it should say methodological assessment on spatial planning and connectivity, and a methodological assessment on monitoring, right?
Thank you, Chair. In our version, we have thematic assessment, but if methodological is there, then that's correct, so we're happy. Thank you.
It will be as you said. Okay, so it's an amendment on paragraph 3, the new agreed paragraphs that the group agreed, the editorial precision. Those are the changes from today to this document CRP 8 on climate change. If there are no more amendments or suggestions, I submit document CRP 8 for adoption and then turn into an L document. I see no objection, then document CRP 8 is adopted as amended. Now, to follow with our procedures, this document as amended is now document L9, right, on climate change. Then this document L9, I would like to submit it for adoption by the plenary of SBSTTA. I see no objection, then document L9 on climate change. I see Zwatini, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We will just request a short period of time just to see the document, how it looks like when it's an L document before we can adopt it. Just a short period of time, Chair. Or we can even project it to the screen so that we see how it looks like, especially the latter part of the subsidiary recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
To address your requests and to be practical, what I propose is that Secretariat reads the changes on the document that we adopt, that is now L, but you know the practicalities to have a new document in this short time, so we can use the document we adopt. This practice has been used in the past due to the limitations of time. So in order to be sure how it looks, I can ask Secretariat to read amendments on the document so you can have a clear idea how document L looks. So I see a request from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Let me know if there is something against my way to proceed in order to save time so we can note exactly all changes to the document in order to be adopted. Please, DRC.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Nous comprenons qu'il y a les contraintes des temps. Mais en même temps, nous devons rester fidèles à nos principes en tant qu'organe scientifique. Nous devons rester cohérents et logiques. Cela nous demande beaucoup de prudence pour éviter les erreurs du passé. Je sollicite que ce document soit d'abord publié sur la plateforme, qu'on le voit sous forme de L9. Et à ce moment-là, on pourra l'examiner, Monsieur le Président. Donc, pour soutenir encore la position faite par les Swatini, on a besoin d'un peu de temps pour voir à quoi ressemble ce document que nous voulons examiner. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, RTC. I was asking for your cooperation and full understanding that a document that is adopted, and when we have 1 hour to finish all our works, is really very challenging. I know that Secretariat is doing their best to publish it, so we'll require some minutes. Unfortunately, if we had a whole day, it won't be any problem, but I count with your indulgence to move on. Meanwhile, give me a second to go to other agenda items in between while we can have this document posted. But please understand it's a very strong pressure to have to edit and to publish a new document when we just adopted a few minutes ago. And I appreciate the efforts of the Secretariat to do this. Give me a second in order to decide how to continue. We still have more issues, like, for example, the new member of the Subsidiary Bureau, the substitute for the member from the GRULAC region for Nagoya Protocol to proceed with that nomination. But give me a second to make some changes in the way to proceed in the most efficient way to pending works. Sorry, and thank you for your patience. So while document L is being produced and posted, I invite you to go back to item 2 on election of officers. So you will recall that we elect by acclamation the members of the Bureau on Sunday afternoon to replace the members from Australia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Palau, St. Lucia, and the Seychelles. At that time, the subsidiary body elect Ms. Aria St. Louis from Grenada to replace the outgoing member of St. Lucia, with the understanding that a substitute for the Nagoya Protocol will be named later. The name of the substitute for the Nagoya Protocol for the Latin American and the Caribbean region was outstanding. Now I open the floor to the outstanding nomination from the Latin American and the Caribbean states. So I give the floor to St. Lucia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, as you are aware, Grenada is not a party to the Nagoya Protocol. As such, the Latin American and the Caribbean states have identified a substitute in Mr. Francis Riaz from the Dominican Republic to accompany Grenada on the SBSTTA Bureau. Mr. Francis Riaz worked as a biodiversity technician in the Department of Genetics Resources and of the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources in the Dominican Republic. He's mainly involved with the control of exotic and invasive species, but as part of the department, he's also participated in the review and monitoring of projects relating to the convention and protocols to which the Dominican Republic is a signatory. In addition, he also is the president of a small NGO that works with early career scientists in the conservation and research projects. He conformed to the principle that the old adage that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, so therefore he has engaged in hobbies such as reading, bird watching, and learning new language. Mr. Chair, I present Mr. Francis Riaz as a substitute to the Nagoya Protocol on the SBSTTA Bureau, representing the Latin American and the Caribbean states. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, St. Lucia. So for the Latin American and Caribbean states, elect member Ms. Elected Ms. Aria St. Louis from Grenada will be substituted by Mr. Francis Reyes Polanco from the Dominican Republic for the Nagoya Protocol. If there are no objections, I may take that the subsidiary body wishes to elect Francis Reyes Polanco as a substitute. I see no objections, then it is so decided. Now I'll give the floor to Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, since the election held earlier in the week for our alternate representative or substitute representative, acknowledging our representative from Canada is not a party to the Cartagena or Nagoya protocols, our nominated representative is no longer available to fulfill this role, and so I offer an alternate substitute representative from our region, Dr. Jane Stratford from the United Kingdom. Both Mr. Scott Wilson and Dr. Jane Stratford have the full support of JOSCANS from WEOG to fulfill these roles. Thank you.
So I know that the proposal for Australia is to replace Mr. Niklaus Wagner of Switzerland as a member from the WEO by Ms. Jane Stratford of UK.
Substitute.
A substitute. Right? Australia?
Correct, but I would like to recognise it's Dr. Jane Stratford. Thank you.
So I hope that the election of Dr. Jane Stratford of UK as a substitute for Canada on Nagoya Protocol is acceptable. I see no objections, so it's so decided. I know that in any minute the document L should be published.
We can do other matters, though. Other matters. We can do other matters. Or we can adopt it. It's
Not yet. Meanwhile, we can proceed with the agenda item related to other matters. So I would like to know if there is any other matters proposed by parties. Thank you. I see Iraq followed by Colombia.
تحية طيبة. باختصار شديد جدا في مجال الشؤون والمسائل الأخرى يتطلب الأمر الإشارة إلى أهمية التطرق إلى إيجاد حلول قابلة للتطبيق أو بناء قدرات الوطنية والمحلية والإقليمية لمسألة شحة المياه الناتجة عن بناء السدود بدول المنبع وتأثر دول المصب. ولمزيد من إيضاح أشير سيادتكم إلى التقرير الوطني السادس اتفاقية التنوع البيولوجي لجمهورية العراق، حيث تتعرض النظم البيئية العراقية للعديد من التهديدات مثل تغير المناخ وندوة المياه وتدني جودتها، والتي أدت إلى تدهور هذه النظم الطبيعية وانخفاض قدرتها على توفير خدمات النظم البيئية الرئيسية وضياع هذه الموائل وتدهورها نتيجة تدهور متزايد للأنهار العراقية الناشئ عن انخفاض تدفق المياه بسبب المشاريع الهيدرولوجية لدول المنبع المتمثلة بالسدود التي تسبب تقليص كمية المياه في شبكة الأنهار الرئيسية وتحد من التدفق إلى المناطق الزراعية والأهوار وزيادة التصحر الذي وصل الآن إلى المناطق التي كانت ذات يوم من أكثر المناطق الزراعية خصوبة، وتدمير الأنواع مثل الطيور المستوطنة والمهاجرة والقراض على الأنواع النباتية، وزيادة معدلات الملوحة وتأثر المناطق الساحلية مثل الشعاب المرجانية، وخطر فقدان المعارف التقليدية عن تدمير هذه النظم الطبيعية وتهديد الأمن الغذائي، وإحداث تغييرات اقتصادية واجتماعية وعقبة كبيرة أمام تحقيق المشاريع البيئية المتمثلة باستعادة النظم البيئية الطبيعية. وشكرا.
Thank you very much, Iraq. Now I'll give the floor to Colombia.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. En nombre de Colombia quisiéramos plantear dentro de otros asuntos y queremos poner en consideración de la SOPTA las siguientes consideraciones para enlazar las discusiones que hemos tenido aquí en esta semana con el grupo de trabajo 8J que se reunirá el próximo mes. Primero, consideramos fundamental fortalecer la participación efectiva de los pueblos indígenas y comunidades locales, entendidas estas en Colombia como pueblos indígenas, negros, afrocolombianos, palenqueros, raizales y rom, además de los campesinos y otras comunidades locales, en todos los espacios de trabajo establecidos por el CBD para el Marco Global de Biodiversidad Kunming-Montreal, incluyendo los diferentes grupos de trabajo y otras instancias relacionadas con el proceso de implementación del nuevo marco de monitoreo aprobado por la COP15 en diciembre del 2022. Segundo, creemos necesario fortalecer el diálogo entre el SOPSTA y la instancia formal de implementación y seguimiento del artículo 8J del Grupo de Trabajo ad hoc de composición abierta sobre el artículo 8J del CBD, incluso como mecanismo de diálogo de saberes e intercultural entre el Grupo de Trabajo ad hoc y el órgano de asesoramiento científico SOPSTA. Tercero, Reiteramos la importancia de los indicadores propuestos y construidos desde los IPLCs, de los pueblos indígenas y comunidades locales, sobre conocimiento tradicional asociado al marco de monitoreo. Algunos de estos indicadores son: tendencia de las lenguas indígenas para implementar el plan decenal de rehabilitación de las lenguas nativas, tendencia en la oficialización de territorios tradicionales. Colombia anima a las partes a considerar este indicador como fundamento del principio de corresponsabilidad en la conservación y uso sostenible del planeta. Otro indicador es incorporación de las ocupaciones tradicionales asociadas a la conservación y uso sostenible consuetudinario de la biodiversidad. El otro, políticas, programas y planes que incorporan la protección y fomento del conocimiento tradicional. Y en este sentido, proponemos incluir en la agenda del SBSTTA-25 un punto de agenda sobre los nexos SBSTA con el grupo de trabajo 8J sobre conocimiento tradicional y otros relacionados. Gracias, señor presidente.
Muchas gracias, Colombia. Esto es dentro de Other Matters. Quisiera yo, sobre lo último, recordar que el grupo de expertos en indicadores recibirá los insumos del grupo 8J, así como también del grupo que trabaja los temas de financiamiento y movilización de recursos, para tener el grupo completo de los distintos indicadores para el marco de monitoreo. Entiendo que estarán esperando a las deliberaciones de la próxima reunión en Ginebra sobre sugerencias para la agenda del próximo SBSTA. Me gustaría indicarles que la agenda ya fue acordada por el Bureau durante la reunión en Kunming, en China, y déjenme decirles que es una agenda tremendamente compleja. Y ese es uno de los puntos que quisiera yo señalar en detalle durante mi discurso de cierre, porque es tremendamente compleja y va a requerir de muchísimo trabajo. Y normalmente, bueno, eso se acuerda con un procedimiento más largo. Tenemos muchas decisiones de la COP que tenemos que cumplir de aquí a mayo. Hemos cumplido con algunas de ellas en esta reunión y todavía faltan más que ya están programadas. Entonces, reconocemos la importancia de esto. Vamos a esperar los insumos de 8J a través del grupo de expertos que compilará esto, y esperemos tener buenos elementos que presentar. Muchas gracias. Permítame un momento más. I've been told that the document L is being posted, so I'm trying to refresh my computer. Let's wait a couple of minutes until this is published to recommend, but don't go too far.
No, don't go anywhere. Stay.
Actually, don't move, just wait. Yeah, I'd just like to remind that we finished the agenda item related to water matters. Spending to address document the last L and then the closure of the meeting, hopefully. So it's posted, the document is posted and you can open it. I hope you have it, no, it's, hold on. All right. My computer don't like to open the document, but I'm using David's. So you can see the document L9 on biodiversity on climate change with the amendments we agreed minutes ago when we look at on its version on as a CRP document. So I would like to submit document L9 for adoption. I see no objections, then document L9 on biodiversity and climate change is adopted. So with this, I would like to proceed to item 9, adoption of the report. So we come to document L1, which is the draft report of the 25th meeting of SBSTA. The document was distributed, and I hope that all of you have a chance to read it. Now I invite the rapporteur, Mr. Bilal Bishtat from Jordan, to introduce the document. You have the floor.
شكرا. شكرا سيدي الرئيس. تحتوي الوثيقة سبستا على 25 على L1 على ملخصات البيانات التي تم الإدلاء بها أثناء الاجتماع والمسائل المتعلقة بتنظيم الاجتماع. لقد قمت بقراءة وفحص التقرير ووجدت أنه دقيق وشامل، لذا أقدمه لكم للاعتماد على أن جميع الإجراءات التي تمت اليوم والتغييرات المعتمدة سيتم دمجها في التقرير النهائي. شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you very much, Bilal. Then I propose that we review the report page by page. So let's start with comments on page 1. I see no request. Page 2. I see no request from the floor. Page 3. I see no request from the floor. Page 4. I see no request from the floor. Page 5. No request. Page 6. DRC.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Sur la page 6, nous avons souligné qu'il y avait des éléments et des cibles qui n'ont pas fait l'objet d'analyse. Nous souhaitons que cela apparaisse à ce niveau. Merci.
I'm going to give the floor to Secretariat on this matter. Please remind that there's also a section saying to be completed in that part. But Secretary, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As explained by the Chair, there are many parts as to be completed because the discussion that we had here in this morning was not yet reflected in the report. And we understand that the statement made by distinguished representative from DRC is referring to the statement by Finland, which is regarding the fact that the deliberation on indicator for certain group of targets were not addressed because due to the limited time. So we'll reflect that as was presented at the plenary this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'll give the floor to Sweden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We recall that we made an intervention on SBD in plenary, and we had some concerns today, and we would like to encourage the Secretariat to reflect the statements made in plenary in the report, as they are also reflected on the web page. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Secretary is noting it will be included. We were on page 5. Now on page 6. No more comments. Now on page 7, Finland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paras 47, where you refer to Miss Marina, Marina von Weissenberg, which is myself, I would appreciate if you could put Finland also after my name. Thank you.
Yes, Miss Marina von Weissenberg from Finland. And thank you very much for chairing, for being my co-chair. Okay, comments on page, no more on page 7, page 8. No comments. Page 9, Eswatini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On paragraph 78, we would like to have a statement that will highlight that some of the parties did not have that we had more parties, and some of the parties did not have the opportunity to put across their statements, especially when it comes to issues of biodiversity and climate change. Because you will remember, Chair, not every party was awarded the opportunity to read the statements, but we do understand that those statements were submitted to the Secretariat. So we would like that to be reflected in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Eswatini, but you are ahead of me. Where I was, because paragraph 78 is in page 10, and we were on page 9. But I hear no comments on page 9. Page 10, the comment that Eswatini just made. And on page 11, it's just a mention to adoption of the report and the closure of the meeting. So with these amendments, I submit document L1 for adoption. I see no more requests from the floor. Then document L1 on the report, draft report of the meeting is adopted. Now we move to item 10 on closure of the meeting. I have the pleasure to invite Mr. David Cooper, Acting Executive Secretary, to address the meeting. So David, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, dear Ezekiel. I want to start by thanking all of those that have helped ensure that we could work here these last few days. Of course, the interpreters for their excellent interpretation, but also their flexibility in dealing with changing schedules. Of course, all my colleagues in the staff, those responsible for the substantive work, the legal team, the registration team, the translators, the administrative and technical support. I'd also like to thank all of those working here in the complex, our colleagues from UNEP, including those from the legal team, the security service, cleaners, caterers, everyone that has helped us and ensure that we can work here, the unsung heroes of the meeting. I'd like to thank UNEP and I'd like to thank UNEP and UNON, the United Nations Office in Nairobi, for facilitating our work here, and many other activities taking place on the margins. Obviously, we would very much want to express our appreciation to Kenya and to Kenyans here for receiving us, as always, with such open arms and such big smiles. It's always wonderful to come back to Nairobi for these meetings. I would again like to thank the donors. And I apologize that I omitted one in the opening statement. So Japan, as well as those I mentioned, Australia, Austria, Canada, Finland, Germany, New Zealand, Sweden, Switzerland, Republic of Korea, and the United Kingdom. I'd like to thank all the Bureau members and all those that have been helping in chairing sessions, in co-chairing contact groups. Big thanks also to James and Maria Cecilia, our ATIC co-chairs. Big thanks also to all of those that gave presentations, invited speakers from IPBES, from the Global Partnership on Plant Conservation, and all of those that have contributed to the work here. I also want to thank, of course, all the delegates here from the parties, from other governments, and from all of our different constituencies, of course, indigenous peoples and local communities, women, youth, representatives of business, academic, and other civil society organizations and networks. And I think this is one of the strengths of this convention, that we have such open participation, engagement of various groups. We know this is essential. The Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework calls for a whole of government and a whole of society approach. It's very important that we have these voices here. Big thanks to Ezequiel Benitez Diaz of Mexico for his dedication, of course, over the life of the convention, but particularly over these past 5 years, servicing as Substa chair. I'm going to stand up. Yeah, so thank you, Ezequiel, for serving the convention and this scientific body so well. Your work also in linking to other scientific bodies, including IPBES. We've relied on your extensive knowledge and dedication, your commitment to science, your skills in facilitating these negotiations, without which I'm not sure how we'd have got through this week. And of course, above all, for your warmth, your sense of humor. It's really been a delight working with you. We'll look forward to continuing to work with you in other capacities as we go forward. Muchísimas gracias, Ezequiel. So, dear delegates, dear colleagues, you have achieved a lot this week. We've moved forward to develop the further develop the mechanisms approved and adopted at COP for monitoring implementation as we go forward, for reporting and reviewing implementation, and of course, in providing guidance to support implementation. And in doing this, we have, of course, tried hard to maintain and reflect the ambition that is in the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and ensure that we've got monitoring and planning and monitoring and reporting processes that are fit for purpose, and that we will be able to ensure that we have all the tools and guidance that we need to support implementation of the various targets and all of the elements of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Of course, there's a lot more work to be done on the road to SBSTTA-25 and COP16, but we've made important strides forward. I want to thank all delegates for their strong cooperation in this respect. We look upon, of course, and count upon the same spirit of cooperation in the resumed meetings of COP, which will start in a few hours' time, so that we can demonstrate again that this convention shows the value of multilateralism. We will have this evening an opportunity to celebrate the completion of the work here in Substa, hopefully to celebrate a smooth first part, at least, of the second part of COP15 and the related, and of MOP10 and MOP4. But we will also mark in the reception this evening the 20th anniversary of the entry into force of the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety, as well as the 13th anniversary just a few days ago of the Nagoya Kuala Lumpur Supplementary Protocol. So I look forward to, as long as we all behave very well this afternoon, look forward to the reception at 7 o'clock. It will be in the Index Finger Garden, which is close to the main entrance of the conference center here. Thank you again. Let me reiterate my thanks to Ji-Hun and the entire Secretariat team. Again, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for your closing remarks, dear David. Now is my time. I hope I can do it. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, dear participants, together we came to the end of this intense week, and we will be closing this meeting in a special manner, as David said, with the celebration of the 20th anniversary of the entry in force of the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. I remember because I was here on the signature, and then the entry in force 3 years after. Now is don't make numbers, not make figures on how old we are now. We were young by that time. And as I mentioned in the opening session, this is the first meeting of SBSTTA since the adoption of the Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and in my third meeting serving as the chair of SBSTTA. It's been all a privilege to serve you in this capacity. It's been a long journey, but at the same time, it's been very rewarding. It's been 5 years from Sharm el-Sheikh to Montreal to Geneva and to here in Nairobi, dealing with SBSTTA matters. I'm glad to see all the advancements that we have made so far, particularly at this meeting, where significant progress was made in terms of providing scientific, technical, and technological tools to guide parties on the implementation of the framework. To achieve this, the collaboration of the Global Partnership of Plant Conservation was instrumental and highly appreciated. Another example is the endorsement of the elements of the voluntary guidance developed on the basis of the work of the ad hoc technical expert group on invasive alien species for the implementation on Target 6 and other related targets. I would also like to acknowledge the hard work of the ad hoc technical expert group on indicators for the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which is well on its way to completing its mandate. Even we're putting more and more work on them. We cannot forget the assessments developed by IPBES and the strong participation of parties in the workshop that immediately preceded this meeting here. And at that workshop, the presentations delivered each of the co-chairs provided high level of scientific knowledge on the invasive species, the sustainable use of wild species, and the diverse values and valuation of nature. The respective draft recommendations are closely connected to the implementation of the framework, and all these examples reinforce the importance of the work of our partners through this journey that demonstrate that our partners are eager and dedicated to supporting the implementation of the framework. We have multiple external sources of information such as IPBES, IPCC, GBIF that are producing scientific and technical knowledge to support parties and the work of these subsidiary bodies. In addition, we have other stakeholders' initiatives, activities, and reports such as the Plant Conservation Report and the Local Biodiversity Outlooks, which provide us with valuable contributions. So I'm very happy to see that it's not only delegates, there are many stakeholders that every time they express their voice more and more and contribute. I hope that we can keep this momentum and successfully conclude our work for consideration in COP16. When I try in English for not to get sentimental. All right, SBSTTA-25 agenda is very packed, as I said before, and allow me to echo Mr. Peter Shai, chair of SBSTTA-2, when he said SBSTA is not a mini COP. We should keep trying not to be a mini COP. With this in mind, let's avoid political matters and concentrate our efforts in delivering what is under our mandate. We will continue with some items, but we'll also have many other substantive matters such as synthetic biology, risk assessment, risk management, biodiversity and health, marine and coastal biodiversity, and others. SBSTTA-26 will take place over 6 days in May, and it will be very challenging. Let's move forward and proceed to adopt recommendations rather than delaying processes. To be able to accomplish our task, we will need to put in place maybe pre-SBSTA science-based consultations to help parties to build national positions. The example of what we have with the workshop on EPES is a good initiative, but we should do, as soon as precision documents are published, I invite you to have consultations in your regions with other stakeholders to help and to prepare more focused interventions and go straight to the technical matters. I believe this can be a way to prepare better delegations and to get more benefit of the precious time we have in our meetings. So, distinguished delegates, during deliberations, we need a common denominator, where we reach to a common denominator of consensus, and we need high ambition, discipline, and commitment to do better our job. COP15 recognized the need for a new strategy to implement the Convention and its protocols. The Secretary received clear guidance on the undertaking on analysis and streamlining the work by strategically prioritizing support to parties of the conventions. I wish to thank all co-chairs of the contact groups of and the SBSTA Bureau members, including Ms. Maria von Weizsäcker from Finland, who ably chair our discussions on item 4 for their active interactions and participations. Despite all the pressure we had, we were able to deliver and also have fun with my colleagues at the same time in the SBSTA Bureau. We have truly enjoyed working with you all, so thank you so much, thank you all. Thanks for the valuable guidance, and I would like to welcome the new Bureau members to take over this important task. My special thanks to the Acting Executive Secretary and the Secretary of CBD, Jijun, and all the team for the hard work and dedication. Thanks to all delegates and observers for the active and meaningful participation. As a result, we can recognize that thanks to our collective hard work, we are fulfilling our mandate as determined by COP15. The outcomes of SBSTTA-25 will contribute to SBSTTA-26 as well as to SBI-3. Now, from now until next SBSTA, I invite you all to keep the good momentum and focus on our important task, which is to provide with scientific and technological guidance to move from agreement into action. I wish you a safe trip back home, and let's continue the good work. Thank you very much. And with this, the 25th meeting of the SBSTA is closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to note that we may need to do some resetting of the room, so please don't leave anything in the room over lunch. We will reopen or resume COP15 at 3:30. Please be on time so that we can be sure that we can have the people we need in the room to proceed. I really beg your cooperation. Thank you. And since we need to restart, we need to refigure the room, I invite you to proceed to your lunch promptly so you also don't get hungry. Thank you.
Richard, hizi hazijachukua.
Jawabi?